Welcome everybody to another episode of the Chop Pod, and we got here today my man James Piercy joining us. How you doing, James?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
Hanging in, and we of course our usual suspect, Mr. Space Ghost. Why don't you go ahead? What's good with you today, bro?
Same old. Chop shop. That's all we do over here is chop it up. I'm ready.
Yes, sir. So we got some interesting topics today. The first one we're gonna get it kicked off. The first topic on this pod we're going to discuss is KPJ versus LaMelo Ball. So this one I'm going to let James kind of set the context of how this even came about to be a topic, and then we're going to get into see whether does KPJ have any standing as far as being a better player and maybe even a better point guard than LaMelo. Go ahead, James. How did this even come to fruition?
Yeah, man. So this came to fruition when I think basically there have been rumors that LaMelo Ball is starting to get a little unhappy in Charlotte. Maybe he's getting a little tired of they've been sort of mediocre every year of his career so far. They're not really adding lottery picks, but they're not really adding like veterans that can help either. And so, I mean, somebody photoshopped him into a Rockets uniform and posted it on Twitter, right? And I would think it would be pretty uncontroversial to say that the Rockets would be really lucky to add a player like LaMelo Ball. But I saw a handful of people say that it would be a bad decision because we already have Kevin Porter Jr. on the roster. And I thought that was so ridiculous that I wrote a whole article about it for the Chop Shop website, basically. And I just don't think this is a case to make, man, honestly. But I know Space is going to try his best to make his case. I don't know if you want to start off or you want me to get into why I think LaMelo is better than Porter Jr. first.
Before y'all do that, I'm gonna set the table for this trial because we're gonna put both of their point guard plays on trial. So I'm gonna just read over some just basic stats for them coming into this season right now from last year, 21-22. We'll go first with LaMelo Ball. Here his stats kind of across the board. LaMelo averaging 20 points per game on 42% field goal percentage and shooting 38% from three on 7.5 attempts. He has 7.6 assists, 1.6 steals, and 3.3 turnovers. Then you have your man Kevin Porter Jr. this last season shooting 41% from the field goal and 37% from three. So that just gives you kind of a big picture view of them. So the first, I guess, Space, we'll let you rock first. We're going to start off with not even just point guard play. I want you guys to be able to tell me, like, as a player, what are some of the strengths that you think KPJ has that LaMelo may not have?
I think just looking at numbers like was kind of pointing out, I think he's a better shooter. I think he's a little bit more efficient when starts to get going. Like we could see him real 5, 6, 7 buckets in a row sometimes. Like I think LaMelo Ball, he want to have that Trae Young in him to where he's just shooting deep threes, and I don't think that's his game. I think he upsets the apple cart a lot with some of the bad shots in transition that he takes, and he's the world's gifted passer, but I think it's more flash than substance because you see KPJ, he averages pretty much almost the same assist rate as LaMelo, even though everybody would perceive to see, oh yeah, LaMelo's he's a God gifted passer. Like ain't 2-3 people in the league, passes the ball better than him, but that's more flair than substance. It's more ooh and ahs than actual, concrete. Oh, he's feeding and seeing it before it comes. I think he's just, what it could be an easy pass, but he'll throw it behind his back. It could be a bounce pass, but he's gonna try to get it in the slightest little pocket and zip it in through, 3-4 guys. And it looks impressive when in crunch time comes and you need every one of those possessions to count. I think there's not much separation in that regard between him and Kevin Porter Jr. I think they both have a lot to work on in the aspect of being a true point guard. And I would say Kevin Porter Jr.'s athletic ability almost sets him apart from a lot of point guards because he can actually put pressure on the rim. I think his dribbling is a little bit better than LaMelo's to where he can just have it on the string sometimes. And it's just his decision making when it comes down to KPJ. And I think if we see a different KPJ this season, I think the consensus will probably switch.
Space, good points for sure. Definitely some good points, man. Right off the bat, one thing I would say is that when it comes to passing ability and flashy passing and that argument, I'm not saying that what you're saying has no merit, but the ability to throw those passes tricks a defense at the same time, right? Like to me, LaMelo's creativity is a plus. Maybe sometimes he tries to flex it in situations where it's not necessarily appropriate. But I would say on the flip side, he can do things that Kevin Porter Jr. just can't do, and see things that Kevin Porter Jr. just can't see, right? Like whether he overuses his superpowers or not, he has them, you know. And I think the ability to throw passes that a defense is not expecting is extremely valuable. And what I would point to as proof of that is LaMelo Ball was by far the leader in usage for the 9th ranked offense last year, right? And you look at this Hornets team, it wasn't really that great, man. Miles Bridges had a breakout season, but he shot pretty inefficiently from deep. Like he maybe got a little bit overrated because he too is a flashy player with the dunks and everything. PJ Washington's a nice piece, you know. Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, they're solid players, but like none of these dudes are stars. Like LaMelo Ball didn't really have a co-star, and they were the 9th ranked offense in the entire NBA. And the kid's like 21, 22, and he was like, you know, he was the earth, moon, and sun of this offense, right? So to me, Kevin Porter Jr. just hasn't accomplished anything close to that. The Rockets were the 27th offense, I think, last year, and he was only 2nd on the team in usage, no less. Like if you gave him the keys and said, "Yo, we're gonna run it through you the same way the Hornets ran it through LaMelo Ball," I don't think you're gonna get a good NBA offense. And to me, that's just the bottom line that makes LaMelo Ball better. You can craft an entire top 10 offense around him. That to me is my main point. Last point I would make: a lot of people point to Kevin Porter Jr.'s positional size and say that that's an advantage for him in a lot of matchups, and it's true. You know, he's like 6'4", 6'5". That he's got nice size for a point guard. Ball's 6'7", man. I know he hasn't really been an excellent defender at this point in his career yet, but he's got the tools. He's fast and he's 6'7", and so I would look at that as a place where LaMelo Ball could grow. And if he does grow as well as he could, you know, he could be an elite two-way player too. So that's why I like LaMelo.
Now, let me ask this. So, as it relates to, and you pointed out the different sizes, obviously LaMelo's a bigger player as when it comes to height. One thing that we have seen from Kevin Porter is on the defensive end. And with his already baseline athleticism that he has, he does kind of project out to be a more versatile defender than LaMelo could be. And I would say it's kind of underselling it to say that, you know, he can be LaMelo's probably one of the worst defenders in the NBA. So does that have any merit to you? Because I think a lot of the things that people rightfully hold against Kevin Porter are the things between his head. And because we all know he recognizes he has game. And I feel like if his mind gets corrected, then even some of those things as far as effort on defense and everything. So as you're projecting this out, let me ask this to both of you guys. If both guys were able to maximize their potentials and reach their peak, who do you think, and I'm talking about mentally, physically, everything, would be a better player? And we'll start with Space, then James, you can go after that.
Honestly, I think if Kevin Porter Jr. figures it out in between his head, I mean, you're looking at a top 5 point guard in the league, I think. Because I think with his rare physical ability and his catch and shoot ability, and like he said, if he can be a defensive stopper. I seen him give Steph the business. I seen him make Steph work every time down the court. And I don't put so much stock as in a 6'7" point guard. I just don't put too much stock in it unless he's like Magic, unless he's a otherworldly type of talent. And I don't see LaMelo's being that type of high-end talent to where 6'7" is going to give him more benefits in the long run. I think 6'7" on the wing, in the front court, actually can be a detriment if you don't have the lateral movement and you can have, swing your hips, almost like a cornerback. When cornerbacks get too tall, it's hard for them to come out that pivot. it's hard for them to stay in front of guys. So I don't think him being 6'7" should be automatically plus on his side. Kevin Porter Jr. 6'6", 6'5", so it's not like it's that big of a discrepancy. But I think where Kevin Porter Jr. can project to be, I think he's right. I think he could have been a lottery pick if he had it in between his heads, coming out of USC. So if it's catch and shooting, I think that's where it will probably give me the edge on Kevin Porter Jr. because I don't think he will just take those. I haven't seen him just trying to take deep 38-foot threes. I haven't seen it from Kevin Porter Jr. I seen more in the flow of in the corners. Like he liked to shoot from the corner threes a lot. I think, and that's more of a high efficiency shot in the long run. So if he figures it out and he can actually get out of his head, I think Kevin Porter Jr. might have the edge just because he's a little bit more athletic. He takes a little bit better range of shots, and his mid-game range and patting the ball in the mid-game but inside of the arc is a little bit more polished than LaMelo Ball's. I never seen LaMelo Ball just totally lose somebody from his handles.
I'll give you that, man, no doubt. Porter's got a stronger mid game. He's probably, if we're talking about both dudes at their full potential, I'm gonna say Kevin Porter Jr. is likely to be a better scorer. I'll give you that for sure. He's got a better handle, and he's probably got a deeper layup bag. And he's got a better midi game. So I see that. It's a bit of thought experiment, right? Like if both dudes hit their potential, what do they look like, right? Because I would maintain that at 6'7", if LaMelo Ball hit his ceiling, he'd be a really good defender, right? Like he's got the physical tools. So if he hit his ceiling on defense, he would be a really good defender. And I would also say that if he hit his ceiling, he's hitting those 38-footers, right? So now that's a good shot for him. So it depends on what hitting the ceiling looks like, right? I guess I would say if they both hit their ceiling, they might be close to equal players. I still think that LaMelo has that creativity and floor vision that is like a pretty rare gift that like would at least make up for the difference that KPJ would have in terms of scoring and handling the ball and stuff. But I would say this, and Rockets fans aren't going to like it, but Porter Jr. is just further away from hitting his ceiling, right? Like a lot further away. Like he has a lot more work to do to get to that point. LaMelo Ball already produces like an all-star, borderline superstar, and KPJ, he hasn't looked like that yet, right? I think next year is a really, really key year for the kid. I also want him to succeed. I see a sixth man, So when you ask like what happens if they both hit their ceiling, I guess for me, I'm like, I like that question because it makes me frame it differently. But then I'm like, I just don't know if Porter Jr. is gonna hit his ceiling. Last thing I would say is that what's between their heads is a really significant factor, right? And LaMelo, like, yeah, I think he's a bit of a cocky kid and stuff, maybe, but like, I think he's bright and I think he's got his head on straight, and I think he wants to have a long, successful NBA career more than he wants anything else, And it's a differentiating factor right now where Porter Jr., we know that I don't think he's a bad guy. I've said this many times. I think he actually seems like a nice kid with like a good heart. I think he appreciates the organization and everything like that. But there are problems. There are concerns,
Can I
Yeah,
shoot?
Go ahead.
I just want to shoot 2 points at you. Who would you rather have, PJ Washington or Jae'Sean Tate? I mean, Miles Bridges or Jae'Sean Tate?
Are we including the fact that
before
Bridges...
I'm just saying straight up. I'm just saying straight up. Just straight up in the vacuum. Just straight up in the vacuum.
Tate, because
you'd rather have Tate over Miles Bridges.
Well, because I don't know if Miles Bridges is ever going to play in the NBA again, man.
No. I'm talking about last year when they was playing like before all the allegations.
I'd have to take Miles Bridges, of course, right?
Okay. Now, who would you want to have, PJ Washington or Christian Wood?
PJ Washington. I see where you're going, and you're making a good point.
Okay, let's equal it out. You know what I'm saying? Like they have a better roster construction for what LaMelo Ball can do. That's all. That's one I wanted to put out there to you. And number 2, I think LaMelo's been playing point guard all his life, and I think he has a uptick in experience at that position than Kevin Porter Jr. So if we could see that grow a little bit more, maybe it'll be a little bit more even. And then one thing about the flashy passes, I think Golden State Warriors could have won in 2016 if Steph Curry didn't get cute in the wrong spot and try to go behind the back on the sideline and throw it out of bounds. Those type of bonehead mistakes can cost you in the long run. That's all I'm saying. It's a time to be flashy, and it's a time to just get it there.
Let me pick that up.
Hold on, that's a bit of a stretch. I'm just called that out, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, because here's the thing. It's true. It's true that trying to go flashy, especially when it comes to passing, can be a mistake. It's like a guy blowing a 360 dunk on an open fast break. Like no doubt. But just the sheer ability to do it makes for a more dynamic, less predictable offense. Like in the aggregate, like there will be moments where it's like, damn, man, I wish that guy just thrown a chest pass. But like overall, LaMelo's ability to whip any pass anywhere makes him an extremely difficult player to defend.
Right. And I'm going to say with this, obviously this is all hypothetical. I definitely think James's point of LaMelo having a higher floor right now does make him reaching his potential not as much. As much as we all just talked about that, the things between the head, especially for the point guard role, really is kind of a lot. And, that'll be half the battle. And I agree with Space that if Kevin Porter Jr., I think if Kevin Porter Jr. really was able to hit his full potential, I think he would be a superstar because he has all the tools. I think he's a better scorer. I think he potentially could be a better defender. But if he was able to get it right in his mind and, kind of get focused on what he's trying to do, then, I think he'd probably have the edge there. But, there's a lot of guys that if Clint Capella had a 15-foot jumper, we might have won a couple rings already. So there's a lot of things there. But one thing, though, they are going to be seeing each other on January 18th. So in 2023, we're going to be able to see this matchup go head to head. And if you want to be able to watch that live right now, go over to ticketnetwork.com. Right now, they're having a sale that if you spend over $150, you'll save $25 with the promo code TNTIX25. That's TNTIX25. That's the promo code. The link is going to be in the description. Ticket Network, you can watch LaMelo versus KPJ and really kind of put this argument to rest because I'm going to stake all of this on that game. Whoever wins that game is going to be the better point guard.
It's not fair, Frank. It's not fair, bro. It's not fair.
Yeah, well, you never know. We might actually have a decent squad. I'm really high on the squad. So we're going to be moving on to our next topic, and which is going to be the ESPN Top 100 list that featured only one current Houston Rocket with Jalen Green and a former Houston Rocket with Christian Wood. First, just overall, what did you guys think about the ESPN list? Did you think it was fair? Was it kind of crazy? Is it clickbaiting? And then we'll kind of look at some of the names on there and see whether we agree where they're ranked. James, you can set it off for us.
Yeah, so Space and I talked about it before we got recording a little bit. One thing that off the bat for me, I would have Steph Curry third. That was one thing that. So if I remember, it's Giannis, Jokic, Luka, Embiid, Curry. So
correct.
Maybe I put too much stock in championship equity, But to me, I'm like, this man Steph Curry has won 2 championships as the best player on the team, and then 2 more championships as either the best or second best player on the team. Like, come on, man. Jokic and Luka, they're both amazing, and they're the dudes that like you can just entirely build a top offense around them, and that's amazing. But Curry gets chips, man. I don't see how you can argue with it at this point, So I would have him third. If not second, to be completely honest. Giannis to me is unequivocally the best player in the world. Like there's no way around that. So otherwise, man, I don't love lists like this for a lot of reasons. Like I don't really like comparing sophomores to like 6th year players and stuff because like we have no idea how these dudes are going to develop, and we're going to touch on that more when we talk about where Jalen ranked with his peers. But like Yeah, I just think it's not really all that fair of a way to look at players in the NBA. And then you got dudes like Chris Paul. Where do you rank him? He's 37, man. He's probably somewhere like 25, 30 on this list. I don't know. But man, he could end up 68th or 75th next year because guys fall off a cliff when they're old sometimes, you know? So it's a bit stupid in my opinion, but that's it. What do you have to say, Space?
I think this was just more, I think it was bogus kind of, because it was more of the PER. It has to be going off of PER. Because the top 4 are just PER princes. Like, that's what they do. Like, Giannis PER, no Jokic PER, Luka PER, Joel Embiid PER. They all, if you was to look at the PER, I bet you they're in the top 5, almost all of those guys. And it's just more on usage and not really. I don't want to say they didn't really do their homework, because those guys get paid to do things that I don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna say that was just they didn't do their homework, but I think they just went more analytical heavy on this list than actually looking and doing deep dives and seeing, how did they impact their teams negatively and positively, and not just going by PER. It was I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but it's some guys on here that is like, whoa, like, nah, man, like, I don't see how did he's here and these other guys are there, because they actually won and they actually did some things, and these other guys are just had the ball in their hands to where they was able to accumulate stats. That's all I think this was mainly about.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that my view on the list. I think Steph should definitely be at least top 2. If the playoffs and the finals didn't teach us that, I don't know what will. He is one of the most unique and gifted NBA offensive players probably in this game has ever seen. That whole Warrior system he's the full fulcrum for that. Everything runs around. He's the heliocentric player of that Warriors universe, and they just proved to everybody, and they did it in convincing fashion, that when they're right, I mean, they're a juggernaut still in a dynasty. So not taking anything away from Giannis. I'm not even mad at Giannis one, but I think Jokic is as much of a regular season and even in the playoffs, he plays pretty well. We can see there's limitations to his game. I mean, I was really down on when they were taking him out in the fourth quarter in the last minutes for defensive purposes. You can't be a top 5 player if you can't be on the floor the whole time. And I saw Mike Malone doing that in some of those games in the playoffs where they would take him out, then bring him back on offense. So, as far as the overall list, it's kind of funny. Let's get into the actual details of it. So we're going to do a super quick shout out to Christian Wood for making 92 on the list. He's potentially coming off the bench in Dallas. Good for him. His play on the Rockets earned him the 92nd spot between Anthony Simons at 91 and D'Angelo Russell at 93. I don't know what to make of that. Houston's own Jalen Green comes in with the 62nd spot, which to me, I was surprised at how high they ranked him, because I just feel like ESPN and the national media, they were really low on him throughout the season. But when you look at where Jalen is ranked at 62nd, and you look at some of his classmates that were also ranked, with Scotty Barnes at 39, Evan Mobley at 36, and Cade at 35. So they're all in the top 40, and Jalen is 63rd. Do you guys think that's fair? Or what is your point of view on that? We'll start with Space, and I'm going to go to James on that. Go ahead, Space.
I don't think it's fair at all. I think Jalen is listed appropriately. I'm not even mad that he's a 62nd player in the league. He had his struggles. He is a rookie. He have to earn some things to come up and get at least crack the top 25, top 30. But Cade and I ain't gonna have too much qualms with Mobley either, because Mobley did make a significant impact, and Scotty Barnes. But Cade is the one that's really just like sticking in my craw for some reason. Like, I think all 3 of those guys are probably ranked too low. I mean, well, too high if you know which way you're going at it. But I think they should be somewhere around where Jalen is, more in the 58, 59, 60 range. If you're looking at it, these guys are ranked above like guys that's like Tyrese Halliburton, you know what I'm saying? Like Jeremy Grant, Jalen Brunson,
CJ McCollum,
CJ
Zion,
McCullough, OG Anunoby, Harrison
DeJounte
Barnes. Like,
Murray. Yeah.
come on, like, bro, what have these guys proven? You know what I'm saying? To where they just leapfrogging these guys. That's why I'm thinking it's more stat based, PER based than actual evaluation. Because I just think them guys should not be that low on the list. It's like this list is like all over the place. I got a lot of other different ones to go about, but I'm gonna just leave it there with them.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree, man. And just like Space, the main thing that frustrates me is Cade being like 30 some spots ahead of Jalen, man. To be perfectly honest, I strongly believe that Cade Cunningham didn't have like any better of a rookie season than Jalen Green really at all. Like, I don't know what the measure is. So, okay, Cade had more assists, right? That's for sure. But he also had more turnovers. So I see it as a pretty moot point. Like Cade's a point guard and Jalen's an off guard. So that I don't see that as a point of comparison, really, right? Like, had Cade been a brilliant distributor in his rookie year, then maybe we're talking about something different. But he really wasn't. He got like what? I don't know, like 5.5 dimes and 3 turnovers per game or something like that. Maybe I'm selling him a bit short, but like he wasn't excellent, you know. Cade's a better defender. I'll definitely say that, and he's a better rebounder. But I mean, honestly, does your point guard grabbing 6 boards a game contribute that much to wins compared to rebounds? Are weird. It's just kind of how the team chooses to distribute them, right? Like some teams have their big box out so that their guard can grab it, so that their lead ball handler has the ball quicker. It's a good strategy, but I just don't think that Cade Cunningham grabbing 4 more rebounds per game or whatever means much of anything if you're comparing the two of them. He's a better defender, and that's meaningful. I'll definitely say that. But Jalen was a much more efficient scorer. Jalen was actually close to league average in terms of true shooting percentage, and Cade was far below league average. So to me, it's a wash. They're really roughly equal. I think that Mobley and Barnes do both deserve to rank a little more highly than them. I think that rookies with athletic and physical advantages that lend themselves to defense have an easier time impacting the game early on. They both also got drafted into situations where their teams were like ready to win, but they still do deserve some credit for winning and contributing to it, right? So I'm down 10 spots or so ahead of Jalen and Cade. There's no reason that Cade laps Jalen like that, man. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I just want to say that I really agree with Space that it's not that I think Jalen got underrated. I think he's entirely appropriate. I think it's that Cade got vastly overrated and Mobley and Barnes got a little overrated as well.
Those are all great points. And if you look at their numbers, I mean, just looking across, Jalen was a better shooter in pretty much every category. And he took almost 3 less shots than Cade. If you look at their touches, Cade almost had double the amount of opportunities to be able to score and do all those things because the team was more catered towards him as their star player. And this was a thing that a lot of Rockets fans criticized, the way the Rockets handled Jalen early on in the season. And to me, that had an impact on his campaign to be one of the top rookies because they had other priorities with Christian Wood and some other guys that they were trying to work out contractual issues with. So, yeah, I fully agree. Like the Scotty Barnes, I'm not even mad at Scotty Barnes. To me, if you win Rookie of the Year, okay, you may have a big bump as far as your cohort of rookies. Evan Mobley, they were a playoff team or a bubble team, cool. But the K thing was like that to me, that's so casual of a thing to do there because there's everything almost across the board, like you point out, James, minus rebounds and assists are either equal or Jalen is better. And this is considering that Cade was forced to be the center of that Pistons attack from day one. So I'm wondering, what does Jalen look like if the latter half of the season was his entire season, where he was the main point of emphasis for the team? So yeah, I really just I don't know what they're basing it off of because like if it's PR, it's not Cade either. So maybe it's just They just like him more than Jalen. But I really feel like this coming season is going to prove a lot for both of those guys. And that list is going to look really, really funky when we see what it looks like coming up now. So just to kind of close off this conversation, we've seen the list now where it goes. As far as with Jalen's class, do you guys see him being able to either rise to the top or separating himself this year? Or do you kind of see the Scotty, Evan kind of tier, then him and Cade are going to be kind of in the same grouping there? Because I feel like this year, one of those guys is going to pop up. And it's always one of the rookies that goes into that next tier before the other one. So what do you guys think about that? We'll start with James, then we'll go to Space.
Yeah, I love the question, man. So I mean, first of all, I will say that if I was redrafting, I would take Mobley first. Like, just to be completely honest, I think Evan Mobley's a really special player. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes that obvious next year that like I should have been the guy in this class. I've got the most unique skill set. So that I could see that, but I do think that Jalen is gonna go out and prove like, yo, I'm just as good as Cade Cunningham and Scotty Barnes, and like you're not gonna deny me on the next list, like that is what I anticipate. I think I would expect all four of them to have good years, but I think Jalen is gonna have the most improvement because he's probably got the lowest floor, at least in terms of perception, even though I really don't think he had any worse of a season than Cunningham. But I think Jalen's gonna average 22, 23, 21 to 23 points per game next year, and people are gonna go, you know what, man, this kid is such a gifted scorer that we just can't take it from him anymore. Like he's got something that's what I would expect. He'll make a bigger leap, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with James, and I won't be surprised if we come in this and it's like, man, maybe Jalen should have been number one. I really think so, because I think he's not gonna have all of the BS that he had to deal with last year. And we seen soon as he got out of that mucky start and they cleared the way for him, he started dropping 30, like bum, and then 41. So I think it's really going to hinge on a team success from outside of, how people look at him. But the people that watches, I think, is going to clearly start changing in another direction. Like, man, what were we even thinking about doubting this kid? I think we gonna hear some Kobe-ish type comparisons after this year. I think we gonna hear some, man, he might be some Jordan type level scorer after this year. I think he's really going to cement it because he's going to get the opportunities. He might have some inefficient game. He might go, 5 for 18. But if he's getting to the line, he's still going to give you 20. You know what I'm saying? Because I think he's going to show at every level he can do that. And the way he's been looking in these Rico runs and everything, we seen him. He's going into his bag now. Like, his handle is a little tighter. He looks a little stronger. He looks a little more smoother. I mean, this kid is poised for takeoff. And as long as health permits, I think by the end of this season, it's going to be like, man, maybe Jalen Green is the next great scorer, period, in the league. Like, he going to have the league on notice to where y'all going to have to watch out for him.
Man, Frank, can I jump in on that before you
go ahead.
Up? Yeah, man.
Go ahead.
So Space got me thinking there, and I do think one aspect of how Green is perceived relative to his peers is just sheer archetype, right? Like, I think that the league is generally dominated by like two-way playmaking wings, like Barnes, or jumbo playmakers like Cade. And I think switchable bigs are another very trendy archetype, and Mobley is probably going to be the most versatile defensive big in the NBA, right? So these are players that are like on trend, right? Whereas scorers are very much like out of fashion. And if you look at all the best like pure scoring off guards in the league right now, it's Zach LaVine, Bradley Beal, Donovan Mitchell, awesome players, but none of them are MVP candidates or like top 5 guys, right? Thing is, I just have a feeling that Jalen can be better than any of them. And when you judge from archetype, I think you're misstepping, because it's like, well, what if he's by far the best pure scorer in the league. You know, like maybe he can bring the archetype back. History has a way of repeating itself. We always think, you know, we thought the big man was dead, and then last year the two leading vote getters in the MVP race were big men. When Jordan came in the league, people said, you can't run it through a guard, dude. You need a big man, right? That's why the Rockets didn't take him. So, like, yeah, history repeats itself, man. I think Jalen's going to be too serious to deny.
That's a super great point, and really lends to kind of like the philosophy of superstardom in the NBA. Like we've talked about in the past, right now the league is dominated. The predator in the NBA is the like you said, the two-way wings. It's the wings era. They're the ones, and the big man is trying to make a comeback. We haven't seen a dominant two guard since rest in peace Kobe on that superstar tier level. And I think even there are fans that we interact with them on NBA Twitter that may not even have got to see a Kobe game live or weren't cognizant to appreciate that. So for us that are a little older, being able to see this archetype and know what it represents in history for certain franchises and things like that, I think we get a little more excited and can see the potential. And I think one added thing now that the NBA has evolved to is that making every player a playmaker. And that's kind of prerequisite for you to be like a star. So you bring in that level of scoring ability and the fact they're grooming him to be somebody that's going to be a playmaker that's handling the ball, running pick and roll and things like that. So I think all that lends to him having a great future. Just to close out.
Well, let me make a quick comparison. I see like Mobley as a David Robinson type guy. I see Barnes as a Scottie Pippen type guy. And I see Jalen as that Michael Jordan, Kobe type guy. So in the end, which one is like preference? Do I like carrots or corn? But I think in the end, impactful, I think Jalen will probably have the most impact down the line, because we seen Jordan, yeah, he played defense, but they was mostly worried about his scoring. If you could put that ball in the goal, that's pretty much the most valuable aspect in basketball. That's the point of the game, is to put the ball in the hole. And I think eventually Jalen will show that he is that type of guy.
Yes, sir. So James's article is Kevin Porter Jr. and the Death of the Truth. This is a beautifully written piece on the ATX Chop Shop website. I really love it, bro. It's like I call it. It's almost like he rapped it, because it's like it's bars. It makes you think about philosophy and basketball. Y'all should check it out. We'll have the link in there. James, where else can we find you, bro?
Yeah, man, I'm on the Dream Shake, writing about the Rockets, a few times a month. I write hypothetical trade proposals for NBA analysis.net. That's kind of my full-time gig. And I talk about basketball with my man, Nevin Brown, on Above Break podcast. And Chop Shop all day.
Yes, sir. Man. Chop Shop all day. Space, any closing words before we shut this down?
Nah, it's just, I'm with the Chop Shop. You can find me at the Chop Shop. Hit me up at the Chop Shop. But I am trying to level up on our visuals and everything. We might have a few little surprises coming up in the near future.
Yes, sir. And keep on the lookout, y'all. We'll be doing an NBA futures pod through our sponsor at betus.com. We'll be doing a futures, looking at some of the rankings for rookie of the year, over-unders on teams. So that should be probably right before this preseason starts. Preseason kicks off October 2nd. A lot of content coming. So just stay tuned with us, and we'll keep providing that good hoops content y'all like. Chop Shop out.